In ancient Israel, where prophets walked and kings ruled, a whisper of change echoed through the corridors of power. The arrival of a foreign princess would forever alter the destiny of a nation, her name spoken with both fear and fascination. Jezebel, daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, she brought with her not just the allure of foreign sophistication, but the dark promises of power that would seduce a kingdom. As she entered the gates of Samaria, the young princess carried herself with an air of untouchable confidence. Her marriage to King Ahab was more than a political alliance. It was the beginning of a transformation that would shake Israel to its foundations. The whispers among the palace servants spoke of her bewitching beauty, but it was her mind that truly commanded attention. Within days of her arrival, Jezebel had already begun to weave her web of influence through the royal court. Under her guidance, the landscape of Israel began to change. Where once stood the altars of Yahweh, now rose the temples of Baal, their dark silhouettes casting long shadows across the land. The prophets of the Lord found themselves hunted, forced to hide in caves while Jezebel's priests walked openly in their decorated robes, their rituals echoing through streets that had once heard only the prayers of Israel's God. King Ahab, once a ruler in his own right, became a willing participant in his wife's grand design. The power dynamic shifted subtly but definitively. Where Ahab hesitated, Jezebel decided. Where he showed mercy, she exercised ruthless determination. Their partnership transformed the kingdom, but at a terrible price. The old ways were systematically dismantled, replaced by practices that would have been unthinkable just years before. The true extent of Jezebel's influence became devastatingly clear in the infamous vineyard affair. Naboth's ancestral vineyard lay adjacent to the palace, a coveted piece of land that Ahab desired for a garden. When Naboth refused to sell, citing sacred tradition and inheritance laws, Ahab retreated in sullen acceptance. But Jezebel saw opportunity in this challenge to royal authority. With calculated precision, she orchestrated Naboth's downfall, arranging false witnesses and manipulating the courts until the innocent man was condemned and stoned to death. The queen's victory seemed complete, but it marked the beginning of her eventual downfall. The prophet Elijah, emerging from hiding, pronounced divine judgment upon both Ahab and Jezebel. His words carried the weight of prophecy. Dogs would lick Ahab's blood where Naboth died, and Jezebel would meet an even more terrible fate. Yet the queen remained unmoved, her power seemingly unassailable as she continued to shape the kingdom according to her will. Years passed, and the prophecy seemed forgotten by all except those who waited and watched. Ahab's death came as foretold, but Jezebel maintained her influence through her son's reign. Then came the day when everything changed. As dust clouds rose on the horizon, announcing the approach of Jehu's chariots, Jezebel received the news with characteristic defiance. Where others saw doom approaching, she saw one final opportunity to demonstrate her royal authority. In her elevated chamber, she prepared herself with deliberate care. Servants watched in silent amazement as she applied her royal makeup and arranged her hair, with the same attention she might have shown before a state banquet. This was not the preparation of a woman resigned to defeat, but rather the calculated performance of a queen determined to meet her destiny on her own terms. As Jehu's horses thundered through the city streets, Jezebel positioned herself at her high window. The crowd below held their breath as she called out to him, her voice carrying both challenge and disdain. She named him Zimri, murderer of his master, a deliberate insult that sealed her fate. Jehu's command was swift, and her own servants, sensing the shift in power, became her executioners. The fall was brief but final. The queen who had ruled Israel from the shadows found no soft landing below her window. As prophesied, dogs discovered her body, leaving only the most basic elements of her mortal form. a grim reminder of power's transient nature. The woman who had reshaped a nation's destiny was herself reshaped by the very forces she had defied. In the aftermath, as the dust settled over Jezreel, the story of Jezebel became more than just a tale of divine judgment. It became a complex narrative of power, cultural collision, and the price of defying tradition. Her legacy lived on, not just in the cautionary warnings of prophets, but in the fundamental questions she raised about authority, faith, and the costs of transformation. The whispers in the palace halls gradually faded to legend, but the impact of her reign left an indelible mark on Israel's history. In the end, Jezebel's story revealed a truth as relevant in ancient times as it is today. That power, no matter how absolute it may seem, is always subject to forces beyond human control. Her tale serves as an eternal reminder that every rise contains within it the seeds of its own fall, and that the choices we make in wielding influence shape not only our destiny, but the lives of all those within our reach. Based on 1 Kings 16 and 2 Kings 9, like, comment, and subscribe.